Thanks, Joey. And then I'm going to hand it over to Norma, who's online, to do our language access announcement.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Norma, voy a ser la intérprete para la reunión de hoy. Si necesita la reunión en español, en unos segundos verán en la parte de abajo de la pantalla la opción para escoger el canal de español. Muchas gracias.
Thanks, Norma. So I'm going to get us started with roll call for attendance for tonight's meeting. So there are a lot of new names for me. So if I mispronounce anything, please feel free to interrupt me and teach me how to correctly pronounce your name. And you can just say present, you know, if you're here and I'll mark it down. So Nancy Gary. Present. Thank you. Luna Angulo Castro.
Presente.
Ianad Burrell. Absent. Marisol has let us know that she will be absent today. So Marker's absent. Sandra Castaneda. Absent. Suzanne Coffey.
Present.
Sean Cotton.
Present.
Beverly Dines.
She's present. I asked Joey to promote her as a panelist.
Okay. Brianna Gastella.
Here.
Michelle Gomez Garcia.
Present.
Martha Gruel.
Present.
Thank you. Carrie Guerin. Lisbeth Ibarra.
Present.
Thank you. Hakeem Johnson.
Be here momentarily.
Okay, thank you. Jeffrey Kilbrick.
Here.
Okay. Dr. Matosa.
Present.
Thank you. Jessica Range. Here. Thank you. Simran Sandhu.
Here.
Thank you. Dave Severy. Is absent. Darabo Shenkute.
Present. Shenkut. E is silent. Durable. Shenkut.
Okay, thank you. Samir Shrestha.
Present.
Thank you. Althea Skinner. Present. Thank you. Heidi Swillinger.
Here.
Thank you. Franklin Ungo.
Present.
Thank you. Emily Warming.
Present.
Thank you. BK White.
Here.
Okay. And then Ariel Shi.
Present.
Thank you. All right, thanks everyone. That is it for quorum. A couple other things that I'll just mention for tonight's meeting is that we're going to be doing raised hands voting for the meeting minutes as opposed to the roll call that we just did. And then just a gentle reminder to everyone to, if you're in person, say your name before speaking so the folks online know who's talking. And then there are mics that have been placed all around this room. So, you know, they pick up sound easily. It's quite sensitive. So just, you know, be mindful of any sort of like side conversation or movement of paper because the folks online will be able to hear that. And that is pretty much it. We already have the slides on screen, so I will pass it to our facilitator, Nancy.
Yay, thank you. Welcome to our 42nd meeting, everyone. Next slide, please. All right, here's our agenda. It's packed and full. So please don't be offended if I cut you off and like, thank you so much. Air District's gonna notate it and we'll come back full circle, just so that we can make sure to get to everything. So as you can see here, next slide, please. So usual tips, minimize background noise. +1 to what Krista just said, be prepared, be engaged, one mic, one voice. We will be doing progressive stack during discussions to help minimize with time also when we get into talking about our subcommittees. Next slide, please. All right, here are our goals. Approve our minutes from February. Recap, quick recap on the recruitment ad hoc. So welcome to all our new members. And then also introducing our standing committees, the just transition and benefits policy that we have coming up. And then of course, we have the compliance and enforcement division here today. And then we will have a large group discussion with that. And then of course, we have CSC doing their presentation and their perspectives here. So next slide, please. All right, and I will pass this to Laura.
Thanks, Nancy. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura. I'm in the planning division. So this is the updated Where Are We Today slide. And you'll see here the results so far of the 2025 agenda planning session that we had with the leads. So you can get an overview of what is planned in draft right now for the rest of the year. So in April, the topic will be flaring. In May, legal approaches and notice of violation updates. June, looking to do a CSC workshop on the community benefits policy that's related to the standing committees that we'll be talking about today. And similarly for July, the CSC workshop on just transition. Then in August, we'll be reflecting on the year one implementation plan, how that's gone, and starting to look at year two in terms of visioning. In September, we want to finalize the year one implementation plan and get our annual reporting set on that. And then in October, finalize the year two implementation plan. We've got a little bit of wiggle room in the end of the year for some, an additional topic or two. So with that, I can pass it back to the next slide.
Great, thank you, Laura. And Chris, if you can mark that Hakeem is here. So that's one thing that it's in the chat, but I don't know if you all caught it. If for whatever reason you come in a little late, just let us know, like wave to us so we can acknowledge that you're here for the meeting for attendance purposes. All right, so we are now moving to approval of our minutes for February 24th. Are there any, thank you. Are there any questions, edits, or additions for the meeting minutes today? I see no hands on Zoom or in person. I am ready to entertain a motion to, public, just kidding, public comment? Where's Marcia? No public comments? Oh, good. Okay, now I will entertain a motion. Anyone?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 24th.
Second.
Great, Jessica moved and Dr. O second. So I will pass it to Carissa for a roll call vote, please. Or hands up, what are we doing? Raise hands vote, just kidding, raise hands.
So everyone who would like to vote yes to approve the February 24th meeting minutes, just go ahead and raise your hand in person and online. One, two.
Can I ask a question? Can I?
Yes.
You know, that was, at least for me, my first meeting, and I don't know if we're allowed to vote. So what is the procedure?
Great question. I am going to say that today is your first official meeting. So I think would be best so that for all transparency, if anyone disagrees, please let me know. That as our new members, since this is your first official meeting, you would abstain from this vote. So when
Thank
she does call your name, please abstain since you are not part of the February 24th meeting. You are
Thank
our
you.
guest as public. Thank you for that question. We didn't think about that. Thank you.
Okay, so no newly elected CSC members will raise their hand. But
I think they can abstain
they can abstain.
or not raise their hand, correct?
Okay,
Good.
Okay, so start from the top. Anyone that would like to vote yes to approve the minutes, just go ahead and raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then online we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 yeses, and then anyone, go ahead and lower your hands if you're online. Anyone that would like to vote no on the February 24th meeting minutes, please go ahead and raise your hand now. Check online. Okay, and then anyone that wishes to abstain from voting on tonight's minutes. So, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And so 9 wish to abstain, and the majority vote is yes for approving the meeting minutes from February 24th.
All right, thank you so much. And so going forward, all of our new CSC members, we look forward to voting on minutes next month. All right, next slide, please. That's a little logistics that gets us every time. All right, and I will pass this to Dr. Matoso.
Thank you, Madam. For the recruitment ad hoc committee, we went to do the last update before we sunset. And so we met on the 11th, both kind of debrief on the process itself and discuss ways we could improve in terms of when we do this in the future. So just going over quickly, we did accomplish the plan of action as set out for the planning committee, which was to recruit 10 new members for the CSC, 9 voting and 1 non-voting government executive, which we got from the customer health. And then also to improve the equitable representation of our community voices and increase our capacity as we continue implementation phase, which we're hopefully able to do in this process. So a big thank you to everyone that spent many evenings and hours on this process to get us through. And so that is all. And so we'll be officially sunsetting and paving the way for more standing committees. Next slide. Any CSC members with comments or questions about the process?
All right. Yay. Silence is golden sometimes.
Any public comments?
I don't see any hands on the public comment side.
Okay. Recruitment ad hoc committee is done.
Yay. That was great. All right, next slide, please. All right, so standing committees introduction. I hope everyone did their pre-read work. I did, and twice, 3 times. So we're gonna go through it as well as we can. Next slide, please. All right, so as per our charter agreement, as you see here, we have CSC members who volunteer, standing committees, ad hoc provincial working groups, facilitators will be responsible for assisting Air District and the leads in implementing the North Richmond San Pablo SERP. So today a standing committee will be formed for matters requiring the extended scope and duration. We have the capacity, our CSC has the capacity to do 2 standing committees simultaneously with the Air District staff support. And then all voting and non-voting CSC members are required to join at least 1 standing committee or ad hoc throughout the year. So, I just want to put that out there because I know everyone's life is in and out. So whatever you don't do, here, we want to make sure that you're doing. You could do something. You could do it. Okay, CSC volunteers are expected to actively participate and attend meetings consistently. Next slide, please. All right, and so here is what our standing committee facilitator role and duties are. Present a plan of action that to the leads that identifies the purpose, goals, and key strategies to standing committee. Collaborate with leads and air district staff to resolve issues, assess progress towards the implementation, co-develop agendas, facilitate meetings, make and submit regular progress reports to the leads, recruit members, create pathways for them to move the work of the CSC. And then facilitators are expected to commit 4 to 6 hours of service per month as you help move this standing committee. And special note, any go-getters out there, you only get to facilitate one standing committee at a time, okay? I know, we're all just jumping to the work, I can tell. Next slide, please. All right, so the first one we're gonna talk about, strategy 1, move towards a just transition. This is our just transition standing committee. And this strategy lays the foundational steps. So one thing that the leads talked about is we get to say what just transition is for us as a CSC with our implementation plan. We know that the Air District has their definition. We know Richmond Mayor's Office has their definition. Contra Costa is probably coming up with theirs. We want to have one that it's ours. And so, because I know there's a lot of different ideas and movements and so our job here is to come together to be as inclusive as possible of everyone's voice. Next slide, please. Okay, is this
The video.
all right? So we have a video for everyone to give us a little bit of insight about just transition.
However, since time immemorial, who belongs in a future with climate justice? Everyone. A just and sustainable future should be accessible to all beings across all of our differences. And the fight for climate justice is well underway in places like Richmond, California. It's a city rich in culture, and its community groups are known for their forward-thinking systemic solutions, from the creation of equitable local food systems to new models for collective ownership. The community ties that have propelled these movements are what's needed to challenge the Chevron Richmond refinery, which has deeply enmeshed itself with the city. It's hard to remember a time when Chevron wasn't in some way connected to Richmond. The refinery's history dates back over 100 years and as old as the city itself. However, since time immemorial, This land has been stewarded by the Ohlone people native to the Bay. The relationship between the Ohlone people and the land was one of reciprocity and respect, and sustained life for millennia. It wasn't until settlers brutally removed them from their land that it began to rapidly degrade. The land wasn't treated as a sacred source for life, but rather a commodity to be bought and sold for profit. Decades later, government-sponsored housing segregation forced Black and other people of color to live in neighborhoods surrounding the refinery. These communities, sacrificed to fuel the global economy, are the most exposed to the refinery's harmful toxins. It's about time we expand our circle of concern and ensure that we leave no one behind. It'll mean grappling with some hard truths. Chevron continues to leverage its money and influence to preserve its stronghold over Richmond. Chevron contributes millions of dollars to local nonprofits like Richmond Promise, which provides scholarships for college. Payments of local taxes and fees also fund public services like schools and libraries. Breaking from this dependence will mean finding new sources to replace the lost revenue. Old systems and corporate narratives have also situated residents and refinery workers separately and, at times, at odds with each other. The refinery is a source of high-wage jobs. However, the majority of refinery workers live outside of Richmond. Points of mutual concern, like advocating for safe, stable conditions for working and living, can serve as opportunities for bridging. There's an embodied type of knowledge that comes from living at the front lines. It's a deep understanding of the fossil fuel industry's physical and emotional toll based on lived experience. And it's communities with these perspectives who are leading our way out of the climate crisis. Youth are taking the future into their own hands, from shutting down streets to march and demand climate justice, to connecting with their friends and neighbors in ways big corporations cannot. We can also support and learn from indigenous groups like the Sogorea Land Trust, who are transforming the legacies of colonization. They are reinforcing their presence and connection to the land through the practice of rematriation across all of the Bay Area. From local food systems to green infrastructure to cleaner public transit to even community-owned renewable energy. There are many examples of the ways our food, transport, and energy systems are being transformed that we can learn from. Our challenge will be setting up policies to scale up these efforts and produce stable and accessible jobs. Change is inevitable, but its direction ultimately depends on us, on our collective efforts to shift who holds power in our decision-making, and on our ability to imagine a sustainable future where everyone belongs.
Yay, thank you. Next slide, please. I feel like we need to clap after that. So this is our preamble in the Just Transition in our implementation plan. I'm going to read it out loud because I think it's very important for us to understand that it's not a them and us, it's a we. Okay. At its core, a just transition is a deeply democratic process that shifts away from the fossil fuel industry to just, clean, renewable energy. It interweaves the needs of industry workers and frontline communities who have been most harmed by the polluters. It does this through vision, planning, and strategically building economic and political power to create a more equitable, sustainable, and just community. So there are resources and references for you all to look at to start looking into what that could mean for us, you, your family, our community. Next slide, please. Okay, so volunteer requests, CSC member volunteer requests. We need to, we would like to identify CSC member volunteers for facilitation. It says up to two, but as you all may remember, we do require 2 facilitators to move a standing committee. And then also we want to identify CSC member volunteers who would like to support and work in this committee. So next slide, please. Oh, no, go back, sorry, forgot about that. So let's start here. Anyone, don't everyone jump in all at once, raise hands if you need to. Anyone who is interested in facilitating, being a co-facilitator with this Just Transition Standing Committee?
Can I say
Not
something? Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, I have been reading about this initiative, the Just Transition, and I know I am very much interested, but I don't know if I qualify. But I don't know. I am very much interested as I read through the information that you provided, the Just Transition and Community Benefits Policy Standing Committee. So basically, I am interested, but I don't know if I am qualified to do that. I just want to throw that for you guys.
Perfect. Yes, we'll put you on the list to be a volunteer for support for the Just Transition Standing Committee. Anyone interested in co-facilitating or also being a support volunteer?
Luna posted in the chat the link to, happy to facilitate too or support.
All right. Okay, so Luna can support. All right, well, Air District, will you please capture all the names of all the supporting people who would like to do that?
I'd also like to support.
Okay, great.
Was that Lisbeth and Lisbeth?
That sounded like Lisbeth. Was that you, Lisbeth?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, great. Hi. And Samir. And Brianna.
Michelle.
And Michelle. Yay. Okay, use this like +10 on the scoreboard, y'all. I don't see anybody else. Who else? Did someone say they would like to facilitate with Luna?
Samir said they would be interested in either facilitating or supporting. So
It looks like
there's-
Marisol is joined.
Sorry, what was your question?
Marisol has a hand up.
Oh, so go ahead.
Hi, amazing. I'm so sorry that I'm not there in person, everybody. I just wanted to say hi. I'm feeling quite under the weather right now, but I'm interested in supporting or playing a liaison role as a co-lead to help support the Just Transition Subcommittee. It does look like, and I want to get clarity from Samir, that we would have Luna and Samir holding down the facilitation. So can we confirm those 2 facilitators as soon as possible?
I can jump in. I'm always happy to facilitate if that's helpful. Yeah.
Who's that? Oh, Samir. Okay, great. So this is what I have right now. And I have facilitators, Luna and Samir. Thank you so much. And supporters, Duvo, Brianna, Lisbeth, Simran, and Michelle, and then Sol will be our co-lead liaison on that. Are there any other CSC members who would also like to be part of the standing committee, Just Transition Standing Committee? I'm looking at the in-person people right now, y'all, just so you know.
So can we be the supporter of two standing committees?
Yes, you can.
Okay, then I'd love to be the supporter of justice transition.
Okay, perfect. Yes. Yay, okay, anyone else? Sean?
Yes, I would like to add my name also.
Yes, so yes, you can be part of as many committees as you would like to be. You can only be a co-facilitator for one, but yeah. All right, great. Good, and if there isn't any others, we'll move forward to the community benefits policy.
Hi, this is Ianad. I have a quick question.
Hey, Ianad, I didn't see, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't notice any hands.
Oh,
Go ahead.
no, it wasn't a hand. Are we capturing all the folks in the chat who are saying they want to be a part?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right. Now I'm double checking Ianad. Is there anyone else? Okay, good. All right, thank you. All right, so we're gonna move forward. Here, okay, community benefits policy standing committee. All right, so the community benefits policy standing committee will work with the Air District to provide input regarding the community benefit initiatives for the Path to Clean Air area. They will work to provide input on criteria for community benefit initiatives that are tied to air quality and climate protection, incorporating just transition principles, and have community-driven mechanisms to include community voice. All right, and this is out of our plan, and here are more resources and references to the plan and for you all to dive into. Next slide, please. Okay. No, okay. And then, so this is our request. We are looking to identify 2 CSC member volunteers for facilitation. We need 2, and any volunteers for support. Any questions or for this standing committee? Or who knows they wanna facilitate and or support this group? I see a hand. Go ahead, Marisol.
Hi, thank you so much. I wanted to also, because I think we ran through that last slide really quickly. I want to make sure that people understand that there are current buckets of money that are allocated to the to the Richmond community, to the larger Richmond, San Pablo community, because of different settlements. And they are, one is for $20 million. And so there are funds and a blueprint to move these forward. And there's a lot of local impact, and there's criteria that these funds need to follow. And so would love, one, I'll be supporting, and if there's not 2 facilitators, I can support facilitation, but my hope is that there's 2 facilitators.
Thank you, Sol. So I do plan on being on this committee, also not as a facilitator, but also as support.
Yeah, I will be as support also.
Okay, we have Suzanne for a support. Yes, support. Okay.
Online.
Support. Anyone on? Let me check the chat.
Yeah.
Jessica.
She support.
Jessica, did you say facilitator?
Nope.
She knows me already. She does great work. I love to get her involved in everything. Okay. Oh, Carrie.
Support.
Support, okay, great.
Beverly, support.
Beverly, support. All right,
Ianad for co-facilitator.
all right, Yanad,
No. Support.
support for Hakeem. Yay, Hakeem. All right. I see a hand raised for Beverly. Beverly, was that just for support or do we have a question?
That was just for support. I'm gonna lower.
Okay, got it.
Althea for interested in participating.
Okay, perfect.
Dave
For support. I see that. Thank you everyone for jumping in. I appreciate all the volunteering. Need a second facilitator. Co-leads are looking at each other, trying to decide which one of us is going to co-lead. Not that it's just, you know, facilitation takes time and effort, and if you do decide to do that, we want to ensure that we create timetable and we can be our best. And I think that's part of the reason why the co-lead is saying would be support and not be a co-facilitator. We do need another co-facilitator here. And frankly, not one of us, but. Did we go through our whole list of people? Who hasn't said something? We're about to put you on blast. We have 9 volunteers, great. And 1 co-facilitator.
I do have a question.
Yes, Jessica, help me out of my mess.
I was just thinking that these committees seem pretty large. It's very difficult to get this number of people together that had a time outside of this that works for others. So I was a little surprised at how I'm happy everyone's volunteering, but I'm also surprised about the size and just a little worried about the ability to accomplish what they're supposed to do in that amount of time. And then also kind of related was, now that we have a full CSC, I wanted to revisit whether or not, you know, we came up with this, you know, statement that we only have enough bandwidth for 2 standing committees. And maybe you guys mentioned this before, but I thought the limiting factor was CSC staff, but maybe Air District staff it's Air District staff? Okay, all right, so forget about that then. Yeah. But the first thing about how large these committees are still is a concern. Just throwing it out there.
Okay, I was looking at it that the more hands in the pot, the more work can get done. Right, because it doesn't just fall on the few brave that end it. So that's why I was thinking, like, the more people, then I think we have more people doing more stuff than not. That's the way I was looking at it. I didn't think of it as, I don't know, Jeff? I see Jeff.
But maybe part of the problem here is people being unclear about the work. I mean, in other words, before walking into the meeting, you know, I mean, I know about this need. I assumed that this committee needed to work with the Air District to figure out the guidelines for both applications and also for giving out of these buckets of money. And then I also assumed that would involve talking to the city of Richmond and maybe the city of San Pablo to be coordinated with them and to, you know, root bind with them around, you know, this kind of thing. I mean, it makes sense that there would be a very particular effort to be in close harmony with the city of Richmond and the city of San Pablo. But that's all I was thinking. I don't think we need 10, I'm with Jessica, I don't think we need 10 people to do that. I mean, I think there's like a couple of jobs and, 4 or 5 people can do it all. And I mean, that's just this is just my reaction to Jessica's point. I don't know that there's enough work. Unless you're defining it to mean a whole lot of outreach in the community, around this, which is more like implementation than getting it kicked off properly.
Well, yes. I mean, I see what you're saying. Here's from my perspective, I'm not gonna talk as a Cody, I'm gonna talk from Nancy perspective is we have gone and done things, and the main thing we've talked about, not having enough time and not having enough hands. And so I'd rather a large group. I think personally, a larger group is better than having a smaller group, because that smaller group, a lot more work fell on the small group. So I think it'll be great to see the large group come together. We also have in our strategy, we have the action and sub-actions that need to happen. So we're not really starting from scratch per se, like where are we going, what are we doing? We have it kind of already mapped out in the plan. I see Marisol's hand, so I'm gonna pass it to Sol, because I think we're on the same page here. Go ahead, Sol.
Hi, thanks so much. Again, I apologize, it's Marisol speaking, for being off camera, but I 100% agree that logistically 9 people will be very hard to find schedules. That does not mean that we can't find common points of interest and work to move the larger subcommittee work. So for Just Transition, maybe there's 1 or 2 people that want to help hire the Just Transition consultant. For others, they want to create the educational materials. For others, they want to look at resources. Or others, they want to start presenting information or learning about it. So I think that there's a lot of ways that we want to increase our CSC engagement. And there may be times where not all of, realistically, I want all CSC members to know there may be times that we cannot find all together. And so the one main difference is that there will only be 2 facilitators drafting the action plan. That's the 2 facilitators will work together. So that'll be Samir and Luna looking at our plan, using our template, and then creating the action plan, getting feedback, maybe through comments, and then bringing it back for a vote, because everything will have to be voted on, and then the work can be done. And so that is how we've empowered the facilitators to create that action plan. And they'll need to move first. So there's not going to be an immediate need for large group meetings. That doesn't mean that we can't communicate and start increasing our CSC engagement. A second, I think for the community benefits policy, there is quite a bit of work, research, engagement with Richmond, City of Richmond entities, with community. I think the co-leads have received word from multiple entities. I even believe that there's a Chevron Community Action Plan that we'll probably need to hear from them about what they want to do. So there's quite a bit of alignment for a lot of our members and a lot of work for our members to do if we want to do it right. That also means that CSC members can meet one-on-one with each other to do work, so that they don't always have to meet with 9 people. So I do want to level set that 9 people plus Air District staff, unless we're having meetings at like 8 o'clock at night or Saturday mornings, is going to be really, really difficult for a lot of people. So I'm glad that y'all are raising this. I also don't want to discourage community participation.
Hey, Chris, it sounds like the in-person room might be. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Oh, okay. Oopsies. Technical opportunities every time we meet. So one last call out for a co-facilitator with Iana for the community benefits policy standing committee. So that a co-lead does not have to jump into that one. Anyone? No, we'll just bring it back to the co-leads from there. I don't see hands. All right, so the co-leads will bring that back and figure that part out. Next slide, please. All right. Well, we started questions and discussion, so last call for any questions or not really discussion because we're already 10 minutes behind, but if you have any outstanding questions on this, be sure to put it in the chat or email us and we'll make sure that we follow that back around to us. Next slide, please. All right, public comment. Is there any public comment? No public comment. All right, next slide. All right, normally I'd say 10 minutes, but we're behind time. So I'm gonna ask that, I'm respectfully requesting that we take a 5-minute break so we can stay somewhat on schedule. Seeing yes, nodding heads, thumbs up. All right, thank you everyone. Have a break. We're
about to resume.
Thank you for coming back on time, and we are going to get started. Are we unmuted? Welcome back, everyone from break. Thank you for your flexibility on that, and I am passing it to Joseph and Grace, who is both are with the Air District, and I pass it to compliance and enforcement over. Joseph, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm Joseph Palmer, and online we've got Grace, who's a colleague of ours, and the committee said that it would be okay to try this. We're going to do a sort of one of us online and one of us in person. So hopefully it works out. Let us know if you don't think it does, but we thought it would answer a couple of the different things we want to try and do. So I'm here in person, Grace is online. And our plan for the next, well, I was going to be 20 minutes. Let's try and keep it down to 15. Is going to be cover a few things. Grace is going to talk to us about the Air District's Compliance and Enforcement Division and what we do, compliance and enforcement. Next, I'm going to talk about, at the moment, 2 SERP actions, maybe 1 by the time we come down to it, and what compliance and enforcement are doing to put some of these actions into practice. After that, CSC members are going to share some of their perspective, and finally there'll be a group discussion. Go ahead, Grace.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. So the purpose of the Compliance Enforcement Division is to ensure air emissions are minimized in reality, not just in a plan or a permit. The Compliance and Enforcement Division has field and operations staff who oversee approximately 24,000 permitted stationary sources in the 5,000 square mile Bay Area. The slide shows two different ways we make sure emissions are minimized. Our inspectors, one, check compliance with air pollution requirements, and two, take enforcement action if they discover non-compliances. So you should have received a pre-read from the Compliance Enforcement Division, which provides a few more details on enforcement and inspections. Beyond planned inspections and audits, staff also responds to air quality complaints, addressing community concerns at the local level. Next slide, please. So this slide shows our 6 core programs: compliance verification inspections, audits and investigations, air quality complaints, air quality incidents, enforcement actions, compliance assistance. These functions work together to protect public health by upholding air quality standards. These are the tools we have to put the SERP actions into practice. Next slide, please. So inspections are the cornerstone of our enforcement efforts, and they fall into 2 categories: routine, which are planned, and non-routine, which are unplanned and responsive. So such as routine includes compliance verifications, such as inspecting the landfill, which are conducted on known sources of emissions and therefore routine and planned. Next slide, please. So this slide shows more detail on routine inspections and types of non-routine inspections we conduct. So routine inspections involve visits which are determined by set inspection frequencies for a particular source or operation to assess compliance with permits and regulatory requirements. Non-routine, on the other hand, are driven by different notifications the air districts may receive. For example, asbestos inspections are conducted when we receive an asbestos job notification, and community complaints are investigated when air pollution complaints are reported to us. Next slide, please. So compliance verification begins with a thorough review of regulations, permits, facilities compliance status, and history, which may include reportable compliance activities, flaring events, or deviations. These inspections are routine, unannounced visits to ensure facilities, both permitted and at times unpermitted, comply with air district, state, and federal regulations, as well as air district permit conditions. Inspectors assess equipment and operations for emissions and odors. They review records and verify compliance with monitoring and reporting requirements. If violations are discovered, inspectors document findings, work with the facility to address the root cause, and ensure timely corrective actions. Next slide, please. So beyond routine inspections, C&E staff conduct deeper investigations and audits of normal inspection work. These involve extensive data analysis, monitoring equipment reviews, process evaluations, and record audits to identify violations and ensure compliance. Next slide, please. So this slide lays out the most effective way the community can let the air district know about a problem. The air district's air quality complaint program allows the public to report community concerns or potential compliance issues that may require investigation by our inspection staff. Complaints can be submitted in 2 different ways: online at BAAQMD.gov or by phone at 1-800-334-ODOR. Complaints can be filed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including weekends and holidays. Our staff is on call to respond to major incidents outside regular business hours. We do understand that some community members may be hesitant to file a complaint due to concerns about confidentiality. The air district does take privacy seriously. Our staff does not disclose complainant information when investigating complaints. This information is used solely to confirm the receipt of the complaint and to follow up with the complainant on questions that may aid in the investigation. Common complaints include odor, dust, particulate concerns, smoke, asbestos issues, and gas station emissions. Each complainant is thoroughly investigated by our inspection staff. If a violation is discovered, enforcement action is taken. More information about the program, including informational videos, is available on our website, and you can scan the QR code for more details. Next slide, please. So incident response. Occasionally, major unforeseen air pollution events or incidents occur. These incidents are usually beyond a facility's normal day-to-day operations and are caused by operational malfunctions or accidents, leading to significant air pollution emissions. While Air District staff are not trained first responders, our inspection staff play a crucial role in documenting community impacts, responding to complaints, and supporting first responders as needed. When an incident occurs, our inspectors conduct a thorough investigation to determine the root cause, document any non-compliance, and take necessary enforcement action to prevent future occurrences. Next slide, please. So this slide highlights potential enforcement actions following an inspection or investigation. If a source is discovered to be out of compliance, we issue a notice of violation for any violation of Air District regulation. For minor violations, which are typically administrative offenses, we issue a notice to comply. It's a fix-it ticket. It's allowing the facility to correct this issue promptly. However, if the facility fails to do so, a notice of violation may follow. For chronic violators, we collaborate with our legal division on enforcement cases and compliance strategies. This may include seeking an order of abatement through the hearing board, requiring the facility to take corrective action or cease operations until compliance is achieved. Additionally, we work with our legal division and hearing board to review and evaluate variance requests. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to hand it back to Joseph, and he's going to talk about some SERP actions.
All right, so what Grace has really done is lay out some of the tools that we've got at our disposal in compliance and enforcement. And the question for you guys is, what do we use those tools for your SERP actions? So on the screen, there's a list of SERP actions that directly overlap with compliance enforcement. And if you've got your pre-read, I know you had a lot of them, but here's the one that speaks about the particular SERP actions and where we're at on them. So if you wanted to look at some of them in a bit more detail, we've got that there. My take from listening to you guys for the last few months is that you kind of like to have a bit more meat on the bones rather than cover stuff real briefly. So instead of going through every single one of the SERP actions, I'm going to pick on one or maybe two and get into some detail on that. And then hopefully that gives you what you're looking for. Get the next slide. What we're going to talk about firstly is targeted inspections. And this does have a spillover into both the increased inspections at Chevron and Chemtrade and standardized Chevron inspection protocol. So it does have a little bit of a bleed out. But it's an important subject. It's actually one I was talking earlier. It's really exciting. I remember in 1994 doing this in college and coming up with some of these ideas. And over the last 150 years, there's been some opportunity, but finally we're actually doing this. So this is really fun to be part of. And I don't know anywhere else in the state where this is happening, so it's pretty cool. So what we are doing here, if you look at the top of the screen in bold, that's the actual action item itself. And this is a great example of where we've taken your input. And we're not just using it here, we've extrapolated that and we're actually going to use it throughout the entire district, which is pretty cool. So you'll see reference at the bottom to the strategic plan. And what the strategic plan is the Air District's attempt to take the best of your inputs and say which of these things could work at a district-wide level. And the targeted inspections is one of them. And so we're just going to get into a little bit of detail on that now over the next slide. So if we look at this, remember that Grace was talking to us about pretty much two ways of doing inspections. One of them are planned routine inspections. We know the source. We know where we're going. We can plan out a frequency of who we're going to go and see and how frequently we're going to see them. And then other ones are responsive. We get a complaint. Somebody tells us they're in violation. So there's these two things. And what we're really looking at here in this targeted inspection program is this first one, the routine inspections. Probably a good way to share this is to say what would have happened in the past. So if we look at the next slide, this is really the meat of the product here. So this is speaking to a few different things. So first of all, the entire district, wherever you live, we are going to no longer just say you're, say, an auto body, you will have a frequency of inspection of, say, 3 years, which is what we have historically done. What we're going to do is say, okay, you're an auto body, you have emissions that have a particular risk associated with them. If you give more emissions of more toxics than the other auto body, we're going to visit you more often, which makes a lot of sense. The thing I wanted to share here on this slide, and the reason I put this one on, is because there's new added additional layers which are going to be for consideration in overburdened areas such as yours. So what are they? So you can see the list on there. And what we're talking about is saying, okay, if we've got an overburdened community, where do we inspect? Well, we want to inspect places where they are frequent flyers for getting a notice of violation. And so if you're constantly in violation, now you're going to be more frequently inspected. So it's going to be built in, it's going to be data driven. Additionally, if you get hundreds of complaints about you, why would we just go to you at the same frequency as we would go to your buddy down the road who has the same industry? Well, we're going to come to you. And then additionally, here's where you guys come in, these last two components. The collaborative identification. You've got a list to us of things you're interested in. Okay, we've now built that into our system of frequency and data checks to say, okay, those ones will now elevate. In essence, we're going to add a risk score to a particular area, and things that will make us go there more frequently are notices of violation, whether it's of interest to the community, and compliance data. In addition, wherever you are, we're also going to look at the potential health risks that you're subject to. All right, that was the first one. That was target inspection. I think that's the one I'm most excited about. This next one, if I could just have your attention on this, this is going to be a report back essentially to you about data from where we're at in compliance. So over the next few slides, I'm going to throw out some ideas of the type of data we could easily get from our database, share with you, and it can paint a picture. As you know, statistics can take all kinds of painted pictures that mean different things to everyone. So we're going to share them. I don't know if it's what you want, but it's the type of thing we can easily come up with. So just a couple slides, if you could look at the next one. This is what that's what the actual action item says, but you can read that in your own time. Here's the data. So next slide, if you could. So here's the first one. And the goal of the complaint program is to respond to public complaints, stop potential violations, allow us to get out there and reduce impacts. Here on this slide, what we've attempted to do is categorize the types of complaints that we get. So you can see that by far the most prevalent complaint in your area is odor. So is that the type of thing you want to see? If you can look down at the bottom, gas station complaints, there's only 3 of them. So this is, the type of information we can get you. We could get you, for example, what it looks like for the rest of the district. Like, how do you compare? We could do that. Okay, next slide. This is, there's, I guess, some built-in ambiguity in this. These are the alleged sources of complaints. Not everybody's right about what complaint the source is coming from. And a lot of times you can see there in the purple, most people, or a preponderance of people, don't even tell us where it's coming from. So if you are calling in a complaint, if you could tell us where it's coming from, that gives the inspector a heads up and a jump start and stuff. But you can see over a quarter of sites where a source was listed there, Chevron is predominantly there, which I'm sure is no surprise to you. So we can come up with this type of data and break out, and that's obviously going to draw your attention to the biggest problems. And then lastly, we've got the next one here. If you like, this is our frequent flyers list. Who gets multiple notices of violation? So if you're in violation, you get a notice of violation. You typically pay a penalty associated with that. And who's getting them? So this is good because it shows you not so much who's being inspected the most as who's predominantly getting a ticket. Now, some of these tickets you could have, say Chevron, for example, could have one ticket that had 100 violations on that one ticket, because it could list 100 different days. And you could have somebody with just one thing. You went there to a body shop and they were using an illegal non-compliant coating. So those would be a 1 and 1, but really one of them has got 100 violations on it. So this is another thing which gives you a little inkling as to what's going on. All right, that's what I've got. So now it's over for questions and answers, or at least questions.
That's all. All the hands. I see Sean here. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, so one thing that the facilities list reminded me of, like for example, I go to the park with my son, and I'll smell the gas station from the park maybe a block away. I never knew you could complain. So is that like, I don't know if that's public knowledge.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like this list necessarily has all of that information. Like I didn't know you can complain about an auto body shop either. So like what, is there an example of like what type of smells that we should be looking out for? Or is there any like material out there, a resource that would like list the things that the auto body shop or the gas station or whatever is in my neighborhood I should be looking out for?
I suppose the answer to that question is if you smell anything that you don't like the smell of,
right.
Then if you can identify where the source is, then go 1-800-334-ODA and let us know about it. For a gas station, you shouldn't be smelling strong gas odors that far away. Maybe they had a spill.
Yeah.
That's the case. What we do with the gas stations is we have a little sticker at every single gas station showing who you call if there is an issue. But if you're off-site, you wouldn't necessarily know that. Okay. And one of our challenges is definitely raising awareness of who we are, how to contact us. You're probably right that a large percentage of people don't know.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I'm going to run progressive stack on our questions and hands tonight. So the next hand is Dobu.
Yes, thank you for that information, but I understand that your compliance generally depends, or rather that data driven, and then you issue notice of violation. And basically my question is, you do an announced compliance verification at sites beyond public information, because order is reported by the public. Beyond that, do you do any practical investigation at the facility itself, why that order is coming from, or why and how that order is coming from, to make sure that the facility does its own technical improvements or whatever? Do you do a practical analysis from your end to determine why that order is coming, other than relying on public information? I know that's very important, but do you do a little bit? Do you dig a little bit deeper as to why, for example, order is coming? Thank you.
So the inspectors do patrols around areas that they are assigned to, as well as routine compliance inspections, and they are looking at different sources. And if they see or find any types of emissions regarding the facility, they do work with the facility to address these issues, to ensure that they are in compliance with their permits and our regulations.
Can I ask one more question?
Actually, I'm going to move on, but anyone who has further questions, be sure and type them in the chat or email them to Nina and the leads, and we'll make sure to get those answered.
Thank you.
By the next meeting. Okay. So the next hand I saw was Carrie.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Carrie Guerin, she, her. I'm the Richmond staff attorney with Communities for a Better Environment. And thank you, Joseph and Grace, for presenting. I have a question as it relates to the slide on compliance verification inspections. I noticed on the slide it said reviewing records of flaring events, and I wanted to confirm, is that all flaring events that take place at refineries, or is that only those that are over the self-reporting threshold under Rule 12? and whether if it's all of them or only those self-reported under Rule 12 by refineries, if that's all of those flaring events that the air district is inspecting records for, or just a selected few flaring events.
Grace, do you have a specific on this? Because I can speak more generally.
I know that the inspectors do follow up on all events, like whether they're CWS warnings or flaring events that are reported through deviations. They are investigated.
At a general level, you'd be responsive to ones that are notified to you. And then when you're doing your planned routine inspection, you just review everything at that point for the particular source.
Great, thank you so much. I'm gonna pass it to my colleague, Marisol.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I wanted to know about the internal collaboration, and when you guys are going in, you mentioned a lot of reports that y'all are pulling. I wanted to know if y'all are interviewing USW Local 5 operators, if you're interviewing the, or if you're just going to the management and pulling the reports.
So I can answer this one, Grace. So we do have executives who are in collaboration with the unions at a higher level. There are also data points that come our way, which we don't really like to get into too much, but people do notify us through various means so that the inspector has sometimes got at his disposal very discrete and detailed understandings of where an issue may be. We don't really get into those in too much detail, as you can understand.
And also when the inspector is on site, they do talk to the operators that are actually operating the equipment or the sources at hand.
Great, thank you so much. Again, excuse me, any additional questions or discussion or thoughts, please email those to the co-leads and Nina as the Air District staff, and we'll be sure to follow up with all of those from this session. Right now, next slide, please. Joey, we're gonna move into our perspectives from our CSC members. Next slide. So we have BK, who's here, and of course Hakeem, our resident Chevron rep, to give their perspectives on C&E processes. BK, I got you.
Yes, first I'd like to address Saul's question. My 29 years running the plants, I've never been interviewed by BAAQMD, nor have I taken part of any audit, any inspections. The only thing that we really do is when they would come out and do source testing for the NOx on the stacks, we were informed. That was passively. Through other agencies like OSHA, the county, even federally like the CSB, the steel workers and the subject matter experts played a vital role. But I'm not sure what operators we're talking about. But for 29 years, chair of that unit, president of all 3 refineries in Contra Costa, minus Phillips 66. I have no idea where that information came from. Also with Durbu's comment, I understood exactly what he was talking about. And it's not just the source identification. I believe, I don't want to speak for Durbu, but the way I caught it, I was going to talk about it anyway, is an investigation into the process. It's one thing to identify it, but if it's a process issue, it's not an equipment issue. That's the investigation that BAAQMD doesn't do.
Okay.
So that's about it.
Thank you, BK. Some very good perspectives there. I will pass it to Hakeem.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Hakeem Johnson. I'll provide just a couple of perspectives from Chevron side, but also want to call out that online we have some folks from our health, safety, environmental folks, as well as Todd behind me. So feel free to ask questions beyond just sort of the high level view, because 2 minutes is definitely not long enough to go through this. As many of you may know, the refinery is overseen by more than 36 federal, state, and local agencies as relates to regulatory compliance standards. The refinery itself has over 30 employees that are focused on achieving these standards, as well as producing the energy that we need here in the Bay Area. So needless to say, we're in constant we have constant inspections as well as engagements with the Air District. The Air District has about 3 full-time inspectors dedicated just to the Richmond refinery, as well as 1 supervisor solely dedicated to the refinery. And oftentimes they're visiting the refinery about 1 to 2 times a week at minimum. We are one of, I think, 4 Title V facilities within the Path to Clean Air area. And, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there may be 81 total active Title V facilities within the 9 counties within the Bay Area. So, as I mentioned, we have the Air District that's on site. So in addition to being a Title V facility where we're required to self-report, that's in addition to having the Air District on staff on site as well. I do want to point out when we talk about notices of violations, there are differences in the types of violations that are issued. You have your emissions violations, which measure air emission exceedances, and you have your non-emission violations, which are, could be due to inaccurate or misreporting. Right, so you could think of like an analyzer malfunction that leads to a data loss. That would be one of those types of non-emission violations. But from October 2023 through September of 2024, there's been approximately a 63% of air quality related notices of violations that were non-emission violations. So 63% of the NOVs that you see are non-air emissions. Just wanted to call that out. We are working collaboratively with the Air District to help prioritize the permits that address the violations and deviations. One good example of that, where we've actually received a 70% reduction in flare vent gas volumes and another 75% reduction in NOVs pertaining to flare operations, was us, implementing an automated, I'm reading this so I can get it correctly and I don't get in trouble, but automated flare monitoring and an advanced flare gas management system, which is the Flare IQ, to help ensure efficient operations. That includes comprehensive flare prevention, comprehensive flare prevention and minimization assessment. We also launched a public website. Sol mentioned earlier, she referenced the community action plan, so you can go on that website and see that as well. You can see our flare performances as well. And so proactive engagements and working with their district to address notifications and improve those are some of the things that have been working, that are working. So to that, I know time is up, but just wanted to invite you all to go to that website, and I can share that within the email later. We're always working on increasing our transparency as relates to air emissions, flare reporting, and all the corrective actions that we're taking. Thanks for your time.
Great, thank you, Hakeem. Yes, give that website to me now. We'll make sure, email it, we'll make sure to pass it out to everyone. All right, next slide, please. So this is when it gets good. No, I'm kidding. So with all the information that we have and some of your questions, we saw the questions that popped up in the chat. We captured those. We have a large group discussion. Normally we do break up. We're not going to break up today. We're going to keep it all together. So we have several eyes on chat. And again, I'm going to call out for our progressive stack. So here are some ideas, instructions. Initial ideas for future engagement opportunities. We want to identify partners to collaborate with on compliance and enforcement, attending and commenting during Air District Board of Directors stationary source committee presentations, requesting private meetings on specific actions, ground truthing of data, for example, with flaring, and then we'll have a quick report out from Seoul. So I'm going to open it up for hands and discussion, and we will probably have a timer because we have about 20 minutes here, a large discussion. Okay. Related to implementation, anyone, someone? If not, I see Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff. You're the only one with the hand.
I just want a clarification on whether compliance and engineering is responsible for exploring the facilities where the emissions inventory data either doesn't exist at all or is clearly inadequate. My favorite example would be Sims Metal. It's an episodic operation. In other words, it's not steady state production like Chevron. They have a big day, a slow day, no day. It's very irregular, and also the emissions are very different because they're busting up and burning and melting. Different kinds of metal. Right? It's a scrap metal processing operation. So. But that's just the one that everybody sort of thinks of first, at least in Richmond. But we know that, it doesn't show up in the data. As far as we know, BAAQMD doesn't have any toxic emissions data for this facility. We don't know how many others there are, but are you the group that is responsible for looking at all the industrial facilities and identifying the ones that look sketchy? It looks like we don't have a serious amount of data, so that we can't put it on the priority list.
I see what you're saying. We're not with the group that collects the data that should be sent in on an annual basis, and there is a team within the district, AIMS, that name we use, and they collect that data. So to ground truth that, it may be worth seeing what is being reported that rings a bell of alarm to you, and then request, hey, we've got, whatever it is, 20 sites that we'd like to have looked at. And
God willing, we might only have 5.
But list your priorities, and then we can go out and say, okay, this is what you reported. Now let's do an inspection and see what we actually see. Now, could they still hide stuff? Potentially, but eventually.
And what if they're not reporting anything?
Well, yeah, so if they don't report anything and there's nothing to view when we go there, we'd obviously be very suspicious, and we would take further action to determine what's coming into the.
Okay, well, so this is a problem I personally would like to work on, and I'd like to know who.
So the way to do that would be to identify what we think is the amounts, and then you could go through that and say, well, why is that's not on there? And then that would generate the list for us.
All right, I think that's a great thing that Nina's taking copious notes over here, so we'll capture that. I see Soul's hand.
Thank you. And there's some in the chat as well, Nancy, from before, if you want to uplift those, if we can. My question was on the public health risk that you're now incorporating into inspections, and wanting to better understand if you're collaborating with Contra Costa Health, or if you can expand on how you're quantifying public health risk.
So we do have a presentation that was given to a subcommittee on March 12th. Grace, I sent you a link to that. Maybe you could share that online, and that will go into more details of how we're going to do that. I'm not as familiar with the precise nuts and bolts of that. So the essence of it is that we would understand the risk to health from the emissions associated with a place. How we do that is not necessarily something I have at my disposal. But we can definitely look at what we've got and get back to you.
Great, thank you. The question in the chat, thank you, Athena, for this question is, what is a Title V facility? Some of our newer CSC members may not be familiar with that.
So Title V facilities are regarded as a major source. So a Title V is a title of the Federal Register where we say, okay, if you are over a certain threshold of tons of emissions, or even potential emissions, then we're going to look at you more in depth. And so, as Chevron said earlier, they're a Title V. They're not the only ones in the area. And we've got about 76 Title Vs within the whole of the air district. And they will get more oversight. They've got more requirements. For example, Chevron have to tell you if they find a violation, they have to tell us we found a violation. It's like you're driving down the road and you exceed the speed limit and you have to tell the next cop you see. So there's requirements that come with being a Title V, which are very onerous, and then also turnaround times, reports, and things like that. So it's the amount of potential to emit and whether it hits certain triggers, and they're very high.
Great, thank you. And there is a follow-up question in the chat. Has Contra Costa Health reviewed the public health risk assessment, or will there be more collaboration with them?
Public health risk assessment, I think by that is meant the health risk, that component. I don't believe that it involves them. It would be more, we would have triggers associated with emissions, and we would use those.
Okay, thank you. Debu, I see your hand, sir.
You're still
Debu,
muted.
you're muted.
You're on mute.
There you are. Oh, you're still muted. Yeah. W, do you want to put in the chart? You're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, anyway, under compliance verification inspection, I'm just looking for some explanation, clarification. The fourth point says, check if any changes to equipment processes trigger a permit update. And then the next one says, review any process upsets or equipment malfunctions. Maybe, would you like to shed some light? Can they simply change equipment? Is there a special procedure, they are required to do before they do any change to the existing system?
So a facility cannot change their existing equipment just like that. They actually have to submit a permit application, and it has to go through an evaluation process with our permits department, and they issue an authority to construct to the facility. But if an inspector happens to come across a change during an inspection, they issue a notice of violation to the facility.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I just want to uplift this comment in the chat. An important part of our plan was or is collaboration with Contra Costa Health. So there's a little disappointment there that they're not involved yet. I'm going to say yet. And speaking of Contra Costa Health, Emily has her hand up. So Emily, I'll pass to you.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I just wanted to address your comment, Marisol. I appreciate that. For those who don't know me, I'm Emily Warming. I'm a new CSC member, non-voting CSC member representing Contra Costa Health. full disclosure, I am not with hazardous materials with Contra Costa Health, but I can take your question back, Marisol, to the folks who may have the answer to this, so I can circle back to this piece.
Awesome. All right, I see Hakeem.
Almost followed up to what Jeff was bringing up. I mean, he mentioned Sims, but I remember a while ago when we were looking at commercial and industrial facilities, there were discussions around sort of the smaller businesses, right? Restaurants and things like that. Now, how, knowing that they would never sort of qualify under a Title V facility or anything like that, and we rely on reporting from the community. If that doesn't happen, are we engaging, or how do we plan on engaging with that sector, sort of the smaller businesses that could be impacted by decisions that are made?
So there'll be places that are exempt from getting the permit because they're so small. And even though they're exempt, they still may have emissions associated with them. And that was a particular source of interest in Bayview Hunters Point. And so we did have a list from them in Bayview Hunters Point of places which suspected didn't need a permit. And what we did was we checked what were we calculated during an inspection what the actual emissions were. In one case, it was 40 pounds of VOC in a year, so not a huge amount. And we're using that as a sort of meter to say, okay, is this typical? And if it is, could we use that and extrapolate it and say, okay, we've got an unknown amount, but from experience, it looks like they averaged so many pounds per year. And then that can go into our sort of assessment of inventory and emissions. And it's been, I thought it was very interesting. I don't know, 40 pounds of emissions isn't particularly huge, but it was them. They were frustrated they didn't have a number associated with it. So now we have some numbers we could put in. Doesn't mean that it's the same as here, but it may be instructive.
Yeah, because it triggered me as we were thinking about the sensitive receptors throughout the area and where people tend to be and what's around. So just wanted to raise that.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, I saw your hand earlier.
Yeah, thank you. So if I'm understanding this exercise correctly, the question is, where can we identify areas for engagement opportunities, correct? Right? And I think your example was great. You are looking right now for what I understand to be some data points that can be used as part of this structure for this new kind of enforcement. Yeah, and I think you have an interested partner here, Jeff, who's also interested in, some of this enforcement stuff. And so I just want to, uplift the first idea here, which is identifying partners to collaborate with on compliance and enforcement. And I think that's the first step. And I just also want to say I agree with all of these areas of further input. I am curious to see how you would take these this information on your slides here, showing the complaint types, the alleged source of complaint, and how you would maybe overlap that all into like a decision tree, or how you would go about doing that. So yeah, those are my comments. I think you should continue to seek areas for further input from the CSC as kind of laid out.
I mean, really the question we have for you is, which of these particular action items are your priorities? We've chosen targeted because it makes so much sense and works throughout the district. But if you say that's not what you want, then we can take that into account. So at the moment, we're kind of operating on what we think is the best, but tell us what you think.
We're gonna we'll take the last two hands here, and then we'll have Sol do a report out.
Okay, so hi, my name is Ariel. It's my first meeting. I would like to, would you please tell us more about how you promote your
Complaint line?
Yeah, complaint line.
Yeah.
Because it seems that you rely on the number of complaints a lot.
Yeah, we do. I mean, to know what's going on in reality, we do rely on complaints because you guys are going to see it before we do many times. So whereas we do drive through an area, we'll be checking the things at a time. We're going to miss stuff. We're not there all the time. So how do we get that number out there? I said, like, there's little stickers in the gas station if you're looking for them. But, you know, we do have, and one of the action items is, how do we do a better job of projecting and telling people about ourselves? Because I was here in 2004, and we had the same problem as we're having in 2025. Some people don't know who to call. So that's kind of a broader question. And we have talked about it internally. And if it's one of the things you want to elevate as like your number 2 priority, that's certainly something we can take that.
So I think this is an important item that we can work on.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know about that hotline before your presentation. And I believe most people, a lot of people don't know about that. Yeah.
That's pretty fun. I hear it.
Thank you, Ariel. Go ahead, Sean. You're our last one. And then
So my thing, sorry, this is Sean. My thing was similar to piggyback off of what Ariel said. And another thing was like where I live, there's a lot of concentration of things. So I'll have like a tire shop or auto body shop right next to another auto body shop. I have 3 gas stations on the corner. So is there any kind of process for that? I know you can't necessarily like enforce a rule and just like kick out 2 gas stations to only leave 1 on the corner. But is there anything that's possible for that, or is there like an elevated risk, or there's something associated with that people can know about?
It is a very, very good and timely question. So you're saying you've got more than one source and you're subject to cumulative emissions. And that's a question that the Air District is currently looking at. And I think it's an excellent question because if you apply for a permit, we're going to look at that source and assess what are the impacts potentially from the emissions we assess will come. But we don't say plus the 27 others around you. So it's a really good question. It's very difficult to answer. And it's something we're grappling with right now. So you're on the money there.
Sorry, and one more thing, it's just that for getting the communication out, it would be nice if like schools, for example, would have the information for like local churches in the area. So especially schools, since they're there so often throughout the day.
So one source of us telling people about who we are is that we, for specifically AB 617 areas, we actually went to all the libraries and took some of our flyers and things. We gave those out. But how many people go to libraries and notice the flyers? But it's one thing we've done. And then sometimes people will get a grant from the district to do something with some money that we've got. And if they do that, they have to put our details on it. So it's like our little way of advertising. But could we do more? Yes, it could.
Is it possible to pass posters to all the residents door to door?
I don't know if that would be something we could do door to door, but we can certainly bring posters here. CSC can be a conduit for it.
Yes, we've done that, and we're always willing to take whatever you want to give us. I see the comments in the chat, so Nina will capture those. Agree with targeted enforcement is a priority. Agree the need in better promotion, the complaint line. And think the CSC could potentially play a role, collaborate on that. That's in our plan too. And from the health perspective, community is what matters. That's why collaborating with Contra Costa Health is critical. Yeah, impacts, yes. All right, Nina's gonna grab all of that. And so I'm gonna actually pass it to Dr. Matoso. He's gonna do a quick, oh, do I see a hand? Am I missing? Someone has a hand?
I just put it down. I was going to help summarize what I'm hearing as a priority, and I know Dr. Amatoso is going to help me, but I think it's one of the biggest parts of our plan that does incorporate just transition principles is having workers at the forefront of investigations and inspections. And another part is looking at the cumulative health impacts. So a lot of our plan overall really does require and ask the Air District to bring in workers and community health into compliance and enforcement. And then the other part that I'm hearing from a lot of CSC members is the need for more outreach. And so I think another priority would be creating a website, and the plan had talked about a website specific for complaints. It's also talked about like an app where you're able to, download it and smell it, see it, report it type of a framework so that we can move that forward. So I really do think that there needs to be, and from what I'm hearing from CSC members is that a lot of outreach does need to get done. So thanks, Dr. Amotoso. I hope you can surmise anything else, but I really wanted to answer the questions of what I'm hearing from CSC as priorities.
Yeah, thank you, Marisol. I think you covered most of it because the big issues was kind of our priorities for the actions and what order we want to do it. And the big ones that stood out was one about the health risks, cumulative especially. It might be hard to do, but we need it. So we should work on it. And the second was the data, being incomplete, partly because we don't know what the other sources are, or we can't find the source, or more importantly, the community is now aware that they can report and what kind of things they can report about. So I think that was the big focus is we have to do a better way of getting community awareness of actually there's a system where they can report complaints and what kind of things they can report. And I think that's something we'll have to help the Air District with because, that's something that hasn't happened so far. So we actually ask.
Thank you for that. All right, next slide, please. All right, public comment. Chris, any public comment? I see a hand in person. Yes, sir, public comment.
Follow up on Carrie's question about flaring. So all flaring is reported to the district on a monthly report. If you're more concerned about what the details are, it's in 12/11/401. So it's a laundry list of all the details for every flaring that you have to report. So that goes to the district, like I said, every month.
But isn't it every flaring event above a certain size?
No, it's visible flaring.
So we're not going to take questions at this time, but thank you.
And then I wanted to follow up on Jeff's question about emissions inventories for smaller facilities. So facilities that are smaller that don't have a formal emissions inventory process, they have to report certain data to the district as part of their annual permit renewal. So for Sims, it's probably like, tons of material handled. And then the district would take that and turn that into an emissions number. So we'll say, all right, for every ton of material you handle, you get this much PM and this much, this or that. So,
All right, thank you. Any other public comments? I have one online public comment. Go right ahead, Athena.
Yeah, Althea, she, her. Sorry, I'm speaking from a different thing from my video, but I wanted to just draw everyone's attention to something that I shared via email. There's an opportunity to sign on as an organization to a letter that has been co-written by the Center for Engagement, Environmental Justice and Health, the Public Health Institute, Race Forward, and the Union of Concerned Scientists. It's to the Environmental Protection Agency Administrator, urging him to abandon the harmful efforts to dismantle the EPA Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights. I'm raising it today because the deadline for signing this letter is on Thursday of this week. And so I know that we didn't have an opportunity to put it on the agenda today, but I did circulate it via email, and I'm wondering if there's a way to put forward an email motion for the CSC or the Air Board to consider signing this letter.
We're not at non-agenda items public comment.
Oh,
yet.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're on public comment on our discussion and the CNE, but we can, now that it's out there, y'all can think about it for the end of the meeting. So thank you for that information, and we'll follow back up on that. If not in the meeting, then definitely in email. So, perfect. Thank you. Okay, next, any other public comment before we? All right, so I am, the refinery corridor overview and work. I am passing this to Brian and BK, correct? Okay, yes,
BK,
Brian will go.
I think in the context of the CSC, I'd prefer if the community voice went first.
Okay, I had a report out, I didn't know if you're coming, I'll let you cover that. But there was a lot of good information. BAAQMD explained to us the 3 notices of violation that were issued: public nuisance, equipment operation, excessive emissions. But I want to share what the membership or the public was feeling. The fence line monitoring is a bit of a placebo that I personally don't really believe in. Trying to catch smoke in your hand. So when they come back at 0, there's reasons they come back to 0. You know, due to the volume, due to the pressure, the wind direction, you know, it can be jumping over that monitor. That does not mean there's nothing harmful in the air. You know, so I brought up, you know, possible dispersion models, you know, the makeup of the materials, you know, the pressure of the vessels, and just doing more dispersion models. There were people bringing up things like drones and stuff like that. And, you know, it may seem far-fetched, but I think it just spoke to the fact that the public is not buying when there's black smoke coming out, when there's not complete combustion, just because the fence line monitors aren't picking up anything, there is anything harmful in the air. Also, Chevron for the longest has had the automated sample pulling. And so when I asked the question at that meeting, they said they couldn't get in to pull the sample. That was the excuse we used, and it's a legitimate one when an incident is happening. But you don't hear that anymore because it's automatically sample it. And I can't believe that the rest of the refineries don't have that. It's been in Chevron for over a decade, I believe. So, yeah, it was you know, we heard about the fines and all that. So for the most part, it was an excellent report out by BAAQMD. It was just we were hung up on if we are really getting true results from fence line monitoring.
Thanks, BK. Definitely took some notes, and I think this echoes some of the other comments I've heard you make at the meetings, which I've always deeply appreciate your contributions. Just wanted to thank the co-leads, Nancy and Marisol, for the opportunity to present, and all the CSC members. Brian Butler, Senior Air Quality Engineer at the agency, working out of the Environmental Justice Division, but I also lead the refinery communities bi-monthly meeting. I think, you know, BK and Nancy, do you attend those?
I'm on the emails,
Okay.
but I think Lisbeth that also attends.
Okay, yep. And we wanted to make sure the Richmond CSC was connected. We didn't want to be working outside that this process. But I think the intention largely, we can go to the next slide. I think I did prepare some slides. Yeah, I think there was a group of refinery community organizations and community representatives who approached the Air District and saying, we see what's going on over there in Richmond, North Richmond, San Pablo. We think we need to get some audience and have a venue and a conversation as well. And so a lot of us are real sensitive because we were like, hey, you know, Richmond is a really important conversation, and we don't want to, you know, work around that. And I think there's a lot of value there. That said, I think what we're seeing in some of the refineries outside of Richmond definitely needs some attention. And so I think we convened about 4 or 5 meetings now. They happen every other month. So yeah, this is just a little bit about the purpose and structure. I know we're short on time, so I won't go into too much detail, but again, it's been a really dynamic meeting, and I'm actually kind of been taking notes sitting here with y'all today, saying, okay, I'm gonna borrow that. I won't say I'll steal it, but I'm gonna borrow that, and actually thinking how I could potentially deepen the correspondence or just us staying up to speed. I know that there was a fuels refining subcommittee at one point. I'm really curious to understand more about the just transition standing committee. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in the community benefits piece as well. And so we're having a lot of those conversations in that forum. And so working with Laura and Amy and Kate and BK and others, and my director Diana, I feel like I stay relatively up to speed. But coming here today and hearing firsthand from what people are saying, it's not the same. So I hope, if I may, I could come back and maybe provide some more regular updates. And again, make that linkage a little stronger. But I'll just simply say that I think the refinery community's bi-monthly meeting is really to give those other refinery communities some attention and audience. And I think just really quickly, just to kind of talk about the meetings, we talked about the community benefits from penalties policy. We talked about air monitoring. Dr. Hope has come and presented. We've gotten a chance to work with Sandy as well. I think he's come here and presented. And so I think some of the conversations that y'all are having are also happening there, but there's a greater depth here, to be frank. And so it's really cool to see that firsthand. And so again, Brian Butler, if there's anything that there's some items that came up today that I was thinking, oh, that might be a good resource, or that might be a good reference to share with the CSC. I'll work with my colleagues to pass that along, but definitely here as a resource. And if anyone is interested in the refinery community meetings, they're open to refinery community. If you live or work or really advocate in those areas, it's for you. So I'd love to have any of the CSC members who are interested and have the time to participate as well.
What's the schedule for those meetings? Are bi-monthly?
They're bi-monthly. The last one was in February 19th. Yeah, my birthday was February 17th.
Well, you need to put out an email about it.
Okay, yeah. So I have some of the CSC members are on there, and y'all might have also seen those community highlights that I create, which tell you about the board and committee meetings and the topics that came on. I think Joseph, you referenced the presentation that staff gave about the
targeted inspection.
The targeted inspection policy. So yeah, it's really cool to see how this is all happening in concert with each other. But to answer your question, they happen every other month. The next one is April 22nd at 1 p.m. I can share that information with Laura if y'all would be interested in participating.
I'd like to say on our subject matter last time was the MRC fire update and the air district penalty assessment process. So it was informative. You shared that after the fines were going to triple this year.
Yeah, there was that. I think it was a bill that passed I wanted to make sure because there was one that got to the governor's desk and it didn't, but I might be conflating them. But yeah, I believe the penalties that are tripling that did pass.
That's the one that passed.
Yeah. I've got trauma.
So I'm gonna interject here because we have 1 minute left in our meeting. No, thank you so much. We will get more information out to CSC. Any questions or discussion, please send it to the leads, to the three of us, and we will follow up with that on email. We can get to public comment side, please. No, I don't see any public comment. I'm giving you evil eye if you are in this room. You're not talking. Just kidding. We want to hear from the public. Anyone? Okay, next slide, please. Next meeting details. Here's our next meeting, April 28th, 5:30 to 7:30, hybrid here or on Zoom. Thank you, everyone. Our first full CSC meeting with all our newbies. And any questions, any follow-up, anything that you think of later, email Nina and the leads, and we'll ensure to follow up and put that in notes and all of that. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Make it a great week.
Bye. Same to you.
Thank you.